Hi, it's Molly from the Semi-Retired MD team. Today's episode features a powerful story from our Fast Fire to Freedom Summit. You'll hear from Dr. Regina Kim, a family physician who turned decades of self-limiting beliefs around money and real estate into action. In this interview, she shares how she overcame skepticism, took bold steps towards real estate investing, and brought her husband on board to create both confidence and cash flow outside of medicine. Whether you're feeling stuck, skeptical, or just curious about what's possible, Regina's story will show you that the first step doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be taken. Let's dive in.
We're very excited and fortunate to have Regina Kim joining us today. Hey, Regina, welcome.
Hi. So, Regina, can you tell everyone a little bit about your background, who you are?
So I'm a family physician here in the Portland, Maine area. I've been practicing family medicine for the past 25 years. My husband and I are both physicians, and we have 3 children who are now grown and flown. Our 18-year-old is just graduated from high school. So when I was introduced to this wonderful Zero to Freedom course by my sister, I was referred by my sister, and I was just so excited to learn about it.
Yeah, can you tell us more about, why real estate interested you in the first place and a little bit about your background in real estate?
So we had a little bit of an experience about 20 years ago with some rentals that kind of didn't pan out very well. And that was approximately 21 years ago. And we kind of put that on hold. But this time around, my sister really turned me on to this Zero to Freedom that's held by both of you, Kenji and Leiti. And it was exactly what I was looking for. I didn't even know I was looking for it at the time. But my sister came over and introduced me to the course, and I said, I've got to sign up for this. This was just March. It was around her birthday, so March, 3 months ago.
And you guys did it together, right? As sisters, you were going through the course, together.
Yeah,
Tell
it
us
was
about
fun.
and was your husband involved? He was not, right?
So my husband was a little bit more skeptical about getting back into real estate when we didn't have success a couple decades ago, and I was trying to learn as much as I could so I could educate him. I know that with a skeptical spouse, sometimes it's very difficult to move forward. But the best part I felt was learning that we all have individual self-limiting beliefs. And I certainly had those. And I kept pointing them out to my husband, but he was really putting the brakes on. So it was a little difficult, but I was secretly taking the course myself.
With your sister?
With my sister, yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your first property and that journey to getting your first property, because I know you took action right away.
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting because it was almost as if I was given permission by the two of you in the course that this was the right path to try to find something to offset our taxes as two physicians, because it's just been so painful for decades, really paying so much taxes. And I hadn't exactly finished the first half of Zero to Freedom, where we got all the steps as far as forced appreciation. However, I started searching all around the different areas near my home because I felt that I could invest in something that was close to home as opposed to having to fly somewhere, even though other states might have better deals, but I really wanted to stay in my home state of Maine. So I focused on the Acadia National Park area and found quite a few different options up north. And there was this beautiful town called Ellsworth, Maine. And I happened to just come upon a few different options and found one that possibly could work.
Yeah, so you were taking action in a space where you didn't even have all the information yet. So talk to us about how you were able to be so motivated to take action, because a lot of people get caught in analysis paralysis. You did not.
Yeah, I would say that in the past, I have definitely had the case of analysis paralysis. And that's part of that self-limiting belief that, oh, I can't do it, I shouldn't do it again. And just really push it aside, even though every time I look around, I'd see somebody else renting something out, or a family wanted to rent their rental home and they're successful. But I just didn't know how to take that first step. And it really felt like your course gave me the permission to just take that first step and learn as I go. And as well as kind of the offer process, the seller motivation, myself as a buyer in this case, what could work, and then learning about your calculators with the cash on cash, which was all new to me. I had to learn all that and figure out the numbers.
I want to dig in a little bit more into those limiting beliefs. What were some of those, and how did you overcome them?
So the biggest limiting belief is that we've already tried this before and it's just not going to work for us. We're too busy. My husband and I know how to be doctors. We're really good, with our patient care. We're raising our 3 kids. It just felt busy. It felt kind of out of our grasp. It felt like you have to be lucky to get in the market when the prices are low and then everything suddenly appreciates. And we kept like missing that, especially with this recent COVID, huge appreciation blow up where all the prices seem to go sky high. So it always felt like we were a step behind. And through the course, it also says sometimes it never is a perfect time to start. You just have to take the first step. And I said, this has to be the year because we wrote yet another big check to the IRS in 2025 and for 2024 taxes. And I said, if I can prove to my husband that we can offset some of our W-2 income, I feel like I can win him over. So that was my ultimate plan, but I needed the tools and your course gave me those tools.
And how did that first property go? Any challenges with that first property?
Yeah, a lot of challenges. So first of all, it's a 2.5 hour drive up north. So part of it was not having a realtor up there. So I had to get brave and make a cold call to a realtor and really hit it off with him. We had a lot of commonalities with our home state being New York. So we had a lot of things in common to talk about. He had also been investing. So I realized finding a realtor who also has investment properties is really valuable because we can talk the same language. And he knew what my motivation was. He knew about the short-term rental loophole, as well as renovating or rehabbing properties as well. So we had a lot to talk about. I was maybe a little bit too anxious to get my first property through the Zero to Freedom course because wasn't it a 6-week course? I think it was a 6-week course.
7 weeks, yep.
Oh, 7-week course, yeah, with the bonus week. And so I was reading all I could and then listening to the lectures and re-listening to some of the lectures that were really complicated and I didn't understand all the vocabulary. So I had to just listen to them again and again. And then when I found this cute little property, it's tiny, it's only 640 square feet. I felt that it would be a really great option for an Airbnb that somebody traveling to Acadia National Park might want to sleep overnight before they go and hike. And I also wanted to have backup plans as well.
Okay, so tell us about that property. Do you see any opportunity for forced depreciation, or was it location, or what really made you say, hey, this could work? And how did you go about taking those steps to buy it?
So now that I'm done with the course, I wish I had found something that I could have done some forced depreciation rehabbing, which is my next goal for my next STR. But in this case, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit too fast maybe, and I found a property that was ready to go. It was kind of turnkey. It had already been renovated. It was beautiful, very small. So I felt that it was manageable. And it felt that if I could put the offer in, get the closing, put the property in service through Airbnb and VRBO, I felt that I would be at least moving forward because I've never done this before. So it was all a little scary and a little new to me, but I felt that I had the confidence from you guys because of the course.
Are you did you set up the property yourself? And then are you self-managing the property?
So I set up the property. It was empty. We bought all the furniture. We assembled all the furniture. So my husband jumped on board and he's helping me do all this. And he's, kind of grumbling, what are you getting me into again? But we set it up beautifully. And then I was going to try to self-manage this property, but then realistically, it's located 2.5 hours away. So I thought maybe I could at least do a lot of the organization, the bookkeeping, booking, but then have a cleaners and like a local property manager on site. So I've hired that person to do some of the interim, and I'm keeping track of all the hours.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I was going to ask about the hours. So are you going to be able to do the 100 hours and more than anyone else this year?
Yeah. So that got a little complicated because it's June. We closed on the property April 30th, but it wasn't in service until May. So I can definitely get my 100 hours on the property, but as the loophole says, it's got to be 100 hours more than anybody else. So that can get a little complicated with the cleaners and then the property managers. So I have to have backup plans in place, especially because Maine is a seasonal state. It's a vacation state for the summer months. And the property is located just a mile and a half from the local hospital there. So I've got some backup plans as far as maybe converting it to a traveling nurse or traveling medical student, or I know some PA schools that are looking for places up that area to rent. So maybe midterm rentals, which I'm not very familiar with quite yet, but long-term rentals as an option.
Yeah, we were just, you and I were chatting before yesterday, actually. And what we were talking about was, a lot of people go for the 100 hours more than anyone else with that short-term rental that first year. And certainly you combine hours with what your husband did too, right? So you probably have well over 100 hours. But we were talking about, well, if she was renting it out in the fall and the winter and having longer stays because she made it a midterm rental, then she would go over the average length of stay of 7 days. She'd be at the 8 days or more. And then your husband's encouraging you to do real estate professional. So we talked about how she could actually make it a long-term rental and group it with all of her other long-term rentals and use it as real estate professional hours instead of STR hours.
Yeah, that opened up a whole nother ball game that would be really palatable, because the long-term rental with the reps was something that I didn't realize it had to be two separate buckets. So that got a little complicated and confusing. But you explained that to me, yeah.
Yeah. So your husband got on board. So let's talk about this, because a lot of people are worried when their spouses aren't interested in participating in this real estate journey. So how do you manage it, and what happened?
That's a great question. So he definitely is more conservative and maybe a little skeptical about the good things that can happen with real estate investing. But I kept trying to educate him with more and more of the knowledge that I was getting from the real estate professional status, which was very new vocabulary to me. The loophole, the short-term tax loophole, and then what was the other thing?
The medical office loophole.
Yes, exactly. So there was so many things that really I kind of was learning it myself, so it was hard to educate him and have it really clearly explain that the passive income that's coming in would actually offset the W-2 taxes. And the reality is that we just know how much we have to pay every year, in taxes. And it was just so painful that I said, for sure, this year, 2025, has to be the year that we do something about our taxes. And then this just seemed to be the perfect solution.
Are you cutting back, and also are you buying other properties in order to meet the reps criteria?
So during Zero to Freedom, I decided right in the first few weeks that by the end of the year, or I think our hospital's fiscal year starts October 1st. So my original plan was to ask my HR, can I go to halftime 0.5 FTE from 10-1 to 10-1 of next year, and then get reps for 2026. So that was my original plan. And then we were coming back from the short-term rental, and my husband said, why are you waiting? Why don't you just go cut down now and get your reps for this year? And I said, it's too fast. It's only like May. And even if I asked them, they'd have to cancel so many patients. I mean, I had all these worries about work, and he's like, but this is the ticket. This is the ticket. If you get reps, then you can get reps for 2025. And then we were learning about cost segregation, and that's a whole nother little wrinkle there. That's so awesome. And then he said, we can cost seg a couple of the properties. And I was like, oh my gosh, now my mind's getting blown here, because I had to accelerate my cutting down my work hours in order to get reps for 2025 instead of my original plan for 2026. So yes, Kenji, I did end up getting permission. Well, I mean, I just asked HR if I could cut down to 0.5 FTE. And so as of June 1st, I have cut down to halftime.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there was the enthusiasm shifted to your husband, actually. And he sounds like he got on board when he realized that this was possible, that you guys could actually shelter a significant amount of your income this year. Yeah.
It was interesting because I kept saying, Kenji and Leti says this, Kenji and Leti say that. And he's like, I don't care what Kenji and Leti say. What does ChatGPT say? So he would double check. And I said, well, Kenji and Leti say this. And then he would say, they're right. Oh my gosh. Everything that he looked up, they're right. So like he kept corroborating that all the advice that I was learning from your course is correct, because he kept checking with ChatGPT, and it was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys already had some long-term rentals, right? That you were having your kids rent. And so tell everyone about that, because now it's possible for taking those and actually using those for your hours.
Yeah, actually, so a couple years ago, my oldest son, he ended up graduating from college in Boston, and then got into a grad school program there. And that was 2023. So the prices were still tail end of COVID, and it was outrageous to rent in Boston. So at the time, I thought, to my husband, we probably need to help our son find some housing that's reasonable and not just throw away like $3,000 or $4,000 a month for rent in Boston, especially as a student. So then my husband pretty much said at that time, if we want to help our son and then our daughter next, the following year, we would need to sell the house that we were living in 2 years ago. So we did sell that, and we had enough for down payments for two different properties, one here in Maine and one in Boston. So we did that in 2023. And then again, we had some left over from the house sale. Purchased another small property for my daughter, because she also transitioned from college to medical school.
Right.
So we have 2 long-term rentals.
Right. Right. And then you're also doing something very interesting with your primary home now. So can you tell everyone about that?
Okay, now this I have to blame on Kenji and Leiti, because this definitely was not in our vocabulary. Like we were talking about the cost segregation, these studies are very valuable for tax purposes, but it's best used if we're not in the home, living in the home, and we're renting. I believe that that's the
Yes.
stipulation.
Right, because if it's your primary home, it's not an investment property, you can't write it off. But if you take your primary home and you convert it to an investment property, then you have that opportunity to do a cost segregation study and get bonus depreciation. And then if you have real estate professional, right, because you're combining all your hours across your 2 long-term rentals, your short-term, mid-term rental, which is a long-term rental, and then your primary home, now you have 4 units, right? And so your
Yes.
hours for real estate professionals can be much easier to collect.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's right. So then we did decide to look for different properties so that we could move out of our primary home. And then the other stipulation was that we had been in this home for 2 years exactly. So two out of the last 5 years. And so we would be able to start renting as of August 1st. And we've signed a lease with a friend of a friend who wants to rent our place. We'll be moving out and then closing on the new place next Friday. So it's like
Wow,
really
so cool.
happening
So you can
fast and
still,
like right now.
wow. So you could still get the hours that you need for reps with this by converting your primary into a rental.
A long-term
But
rental.
as long as you don't rent it out for more than 2 years, you can still get access to that primary home exclusion. And if you were to sell your home in 2 years, then you could actually pay no capital gains.
Right.
Yeah.
However, if she's taken bonus depreciation on it, she would still have depreciation recapture if she doesn't 1031 exchange.
True. That's true.
So it's just something you have to keep in mind. And in a couple of years, you have to decide, right? Maybe you decide to continue to rent it. And, when you sell it, you 1031 exchange it. Or maybe in 2 years, you're like, hey, I want to, it's appreciated a ton. I want to take advantage of that 500,000 per couple of primary home exclusion, not pay taxes on it. And I know that I'm going to have to pay back the depreciation recapture. But, at that point, it's what, 20 something percent tax. So it's not the same as income taxes.
25% for
Yeah,
depreciation
25%
recapture.
25%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
some
now you have
options.
these.
So it's really remarkable, right? So
Yeah.
took Zero to Freedom, like within, like 3-4 months is like gotten herself a short-term rental, like,
And then pivoting to real estate
professional
professional and
status.
then realizing, okay, we have actually 4 units now, right?
Because she's
So-
moving out of her primary home.
Right.
It's amazing. You're really an action taker.
Well, I think it's also cool that in a short period of time, the difference between where you were and where you are now, thinking about, okay, now we got 4 rentals. Before this, maybe, I guess you weren't really thinking about those 2 that you were renting to your kids as rentals, and could be counted for hours for reps. And then converting your primary to a rental was also another big step. And so, and we still got 6 more months to go. So, you can still buy another property. So accumulate even more reps hours. So I think it's pretty cool and a big change since compared to where you were before.
And cutting
Zero
back to halftime.
That's right. And cutting back to halftime as well, where some of the tax savings, could actually help mitigate some of the lost income. So that's great.
Yeah. And we'll take a look at your property during the, when we go through the property transformation. But can you kind of talk about like, what do you want to do over the next couple of years? Like, what's your vision with you and your husband, and how does real estate fit into that?
Well, this is very interesting because our youngest, we're flying him tonight to get over to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. So believe it or not, I'm actually looking in the Colorado Springs area for a possible short-term rental. And one maybe reason that my husband is on board is because it makes a little bit of a connection to our youngest so that we can have a stopping ground just to be able to go to Colorado Springs and be there for parents' weekend or mini weekends or vacations. And it feels really good as far as a next step. But we also have to figure out everything in Maine first before we take that next step.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very cool. And what would you tell somebody who is thinking about taking this journey, maybe following in your footsteps? What kind of advice would you give them?
So I would definitely tell another fellow physician or medical provider that our job definitely is medicine and we're good at what we do and we care about our patients. But as you've pointed out, and as we all know, if we don't work, we don't make our income. And so the next step would be finding the cash flow and then learning about real estate as being the vehicle for having positive cash flow along with tax benefits, because it's legally, I guess you could say, IRS sanctioned that we have these passive losses that can apply against our W-2 income, and there's really not many other options for that. So I would say that I have had many self-limiting beliefs that it can't be done, or I'm only a doctor, I only know what I know. But if you jump into this course, learn as much as you can, be a sponge, just absorb all this information and review it over and over and over again because it is a new language. I think that you can build the confidence to just jump in and find something small that you can acquire, whether it's a short-term rental or a long-term rental, and then take the first steps.
Beautifully said. Well, thank you so much for your time, Regina. And I'm sure everyone will love to kind of check out your first purchase, your short-term rental in Maine and near Acadia. And thank you for joining us and telling us your story.
Thank you so much.